All right, good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Planning Board and valued community representatives, I welcome you all to this evening's Assembly of the Saco Planning Board. As chairman, it is my privilege to convene this gathering dedicated to the thoughtful planning and development of our community. Today, we come together with a shared commitment to shaping the future of our city in a manner that reflects our values, respects our heritage, and fulfills the needs of our residents both now and in the future. Our agenda tonight contains important matters, each requiring our careful consideration, expertise, and collaboration. As we engage in our deliberations, let us remember the profound impact these decisions will have on the lives of all, keeping in mind we're residents like you. It is our duty to maintain transparency, fairness, and inclusivity in our proceedings, ensuring that the voices of all are heard and respected. Together, we must embrace the responsibilities entrusted to us by our community, working diligently and thoughtfully to chart a course that fosters growth, prosperity, and harmony. With that, I would like to call this meeting of the Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 Saco Planning Board to order. I look forward to the productive discussions and meaningful outcomes that lie ahead. With us this evening, myself, Matt Provenzel, the chair of the board. To my left, we have our vice chair, Joyce Leary Clark, and planning board member, Jeff Brochu, and to my right, planning board member, Jim Moyer. Planning board members Camille White and Carrie Lynn Lane are absent this evening. Also with us this evening, we have our city staff, Emily Cole Plescott, our city planner, our assistant planner, Shannon Chisholm, Lisa Harmon, our planning compliance manager, our city planning intern, James Patefield, and with us, our city council liaison, Phil Hatch. And with that, I will move to item 3 on our agenda, which is the approval or review of our June 17th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
Thank you for the motion, Jim.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, I'd like to make a suggestion for one edit. On page 3 of 5, I think it's approximately the 5th paragraph down, it reads, Jeff Brochu asks questions related to the provided generated data. The provided data needs to be updated as it does not take into account that it states 2 generators. I'd like to strike generators that and would insert systems and 2 systems, basically because they're not 2 generators on site, but there are 2 systems that we're running simultaneously inflation, and it explains it a little further on, but it'd be best for clarity to make that edit.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, I'll amend my motion to include that change.
I will second.
All right, motion made by Jim and seconded by Jeff to adopt the minutes as amended. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor. Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. All right, with that, our next item on the agenda this evening is our public comment period. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to come to the board and speak or ask questions regarding to any planning matters. If we have specific items on the agenda, please hold those to that particular item once we get to public hearing. And with that, if there are any members of the public that would like to speak, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rob Biggs, and I live at 334 Lincoln Street. Thank you to the Planning Department staff and the Planning Board members for allowing me to speak here this evening. I'm here tonight with 2 issues. Firstly, you are reviewing a project application from Jackson Brown to convert existing space to affordable residential dwelling units in the medium-density residential zoning district. I feel that it's a great idea and it creates useful housing in the near downtown. But what I am here to talk about is the Saco River Garden condominium project, which I now live in. This project was completed by Mr. Brown in 2022, and when I say completed, I say that somewhat in jest. The Saco River Garden condominiums had been approved by the Saco Planning Board in 2004 as a conditional use project. With the conditional use approval comes conditions, hence the name. The first 4 units were completed by the original developer in 2008. When Mr. Brown bought the remaining 6 lots and completed the final 6 units, the conditions still existed, but some were ignored. The stormwater grading plan, the landscaping plan, as well as the final coat of asphalt on the common road and the driveway aprons were never completed. There's been a solution to the stormwater grading that Mr. Brown completed 6 months after he received the certificates of occupancy from the city of Saco. At the time of my closing in November of 22, Mr. Brown indicated that the finished layer of asphalt would be installed in the spring since we were past the paving season. When discussing stormwater remediation on site and in subsequent emails, Mr. Brown stated that the contractor was going to do the asphalt, but was behind schedule and the work would be completed later in the year. Several emails later, indicating that the work was still scheduled, Mr. Brown said that he was no longer going to do the second coat. It would be up to us, the homeowners, to complete. At this point, he stated that if it was not clearly stated in the buy agreement, he would not do it. My point is that as non-sophisticated buyers of real estate, along with earlier communications from Mr. Brown, it would have been a reasonable expectation that that like one of the other 3 condos that received a final coat of asphalt, that all units would be treated the same way. I wanted you to be aware of the character of the applicant that you're now in the approval process with. Secondly, we're now struggling to understand how the city could possibly issue certificates of occupancy to a project that was not completed. A project of this size, per the City of Saco Planning Department's standard practice, would have been to hold a project closeout review. The prior city planner did not accomplish this, and we feel that the city is at fault in not covering the homeowner's rights. We are now left with a landscaping shown on the approved plan set sheet 11 signed by the planning board in 2004 as a condition, and only a base layer on our common road and driveway aprons. I've communicated our issues to Mayor McPhail, the City Councilor Phil Hatch, and City Administrator John Bohenko, with no real communication to us short of a comment by our City Councilor that you're on your own. Additionally, I've been working with Director Cole Prescott and her staff, and they've been extremely helpful, and for that I'd like to thank them. I'll be requesting a face-to-face meeting with the appropriate city staff and elected officials to bring this issue to an appropriate solution. Respectfully submitted, in representing the Saco River Condominium Homeowners Association, Rob Biggs, 334 Lincoln Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biggs. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this period? All right. With that, we will continue along. Our next item is our Planning Board Public Hearing Guidelines. This is a document that we publish and we work with the board and staff members to put together. This is something that we can provide digitally and hard copy at the rear of the auditorium. If anyone has any questions, please let us know. And with that, we will move to item 6 on this evening's agenda, which is our applications for review and public hearings this evening. Our first item is item 6A, and this is 138 Main Street. This is map 37, lot 8, and this is a proposal to install electric bus chargers and utilities. And this is presented by Biddeford Saco Orchard Beach Transportation Center. And this is a public hearing and continued application review for a site plan amendment for installation of 2 pantographic en route chargers for the battery electric buses. This is in the Saco Island zoning district. Anything to add, Emily?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had the site walk today. That was really helpful. So I recommend debriefing about that. We will have notes coming up about that site walk available for you at the next meeting. I know there were several questions from that review, and the applicant has also pursued the Saco River Corridor Commission review process. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Board members, any disclosures or conflicts on this one before we continue?
Mr. Chair, I would say I was not present at the initial meeting on this application, but I had reviewed the materials and watched the video, so I feel I'm prepared to participate.
Great, thank you, Joyce. All right, with that, we will give a brief summary of our site walk this morning. We met with the applicant and city staff members, and we walked the site and reviewed locations of the equipment, sight lines, locations of some shut-off equipment, discussed some potential snow removal, storage areas. Our deputy fire chief was on site with us this morning as well. So we had good conversation about emergency scenarios, landscaping, privacy, security, etc. Any items I missed, board members? I think that was the bulk of the meeting this morning. So, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank city staff for inviting and getting so many of our city experts there, between the facilities directors, code enforcement, particularly electrical inspector, being a very technical issue, and then also bringing the new deputy fire chief kind of up to speed. I think it helps for them to all be there as we're evaluating a site, particularly on a technically difficult one, so they all understand where our questions are originating from when we're asking for their opinions in their respective fields. So thank you to the staff for that. I'm looking forward to hearing the responses that to our inquiries.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And with that, I believe the applicant is with us this evening. If they wanted to give a brief summary or any adjustments or changes from our initial meeting with you.
Obviously, we took notes. Brandon's with Decker Electric, the engineer, and we're going to bring that back and work with that. And but saw no major issues. We talked about the curbing for the sidewalk plows. With the elevation of that site and things we have to do in that nature, we don't see an issue with that. Deputy Chief DeRoss talked with Brandon on the actual location for the automatic shutoff that will kill that, which would be over by the windmill platform. So there's no issues with that. Other than that, I think we got it covered.
Okay. Is there an agenda? Okay. The 25th from the Saco River Corridor, did that?
So the emails I forwarded to Planning Department, everything went through. It went through a unanimous vote where they vote on a whole bunch of projects all in one shot. Everything's all set, and they figured about 2 weeks before the paperwork catches up. So
Okay,
Everything's all good, they loved it.
okay, great. Okay, so back to board members for a moment. So I guess a little bit more specifically this morning, we talked about, for example, the equipment platform, looking at raising it up and providing some protection for the sidewalk. That was one of the big items as well. We're going to coordinate with the city electrical inspector on that distance between the fencing and the landscaping. And then with that as well, Emily had mentioned the sort of that Saco Island sort of master plan that we talked about, and incorporating or looking ahead and understanding what that plan was, not to say we're going to, just looking at where we're at with that in relationship to this project as well. We talked about some of the bollards or maybe some granite slabs for some vehicle protection and so on and so forth. Like you mentioned, we did take some good notes. With that, any other thoughts from board members as we review this, Jim?
Just two items. I noticed in the city engineer report, there were just a couple things that I wasn't quite sure. I'm sure you have this covered, but the voluntary response action plan with the main DEP, you're nodding, so do you have that? Are you addressing that and making sure that that's going to be taken care of?
What's that?
The voluntary response action report with the main DEP, the VRAP report.
Yeah.
The city engineer wanted to make sure that there were proper provisions for soils handling, monitoring, testing, compliance, and so forth. Is that being?
Yeah, that's accurate. We're employing Hoffman Engineering for that.
And you're confident that's being taken care of and that's not going to be a problem going forward?
Correct.
The second question I had to do with the engineer asked if the easement document from CMP to Saco Mill for LLC was sufficient to cover the work that you're proposing to do to bring the line over to this project.
So the easement was for Central Main Power to run that, so we're all set there. We will need an easement from the city of Saco because that's the city's property for CMP.
But CMP's easement, you'll be utilizing that to
Yep.
be able to pull the line up from the mill to
Yep.
your project, and
Yeah, and
you're confident that easement is
Yep.
broad enough to encompass the work that you're
Yep.
doing?
Chimberg's all satisfied with that project and actually thinking about charges of their own for vehicles, for small vehicles, so.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any other questions or thoughts from board members?
I think I'm just waiting to see the updated landscaping plan, to see how the fencing and the landscaping all come together.
Sure.
So, may I just add, so the fencing and the bushes, trees, whatever we want to call them, was something that we put together for you folks. So if there's something that you'd rather see, that's fine. We just need to know what that is. That fence is roughly 8 feet wide. We're going to put bollards on each corner of the front-facing areas. The gate's 6 feet wide, so there's only room for one bollard on each end. But as far as the trees, you know, I had put them on the inside to keep vagrants from sleeping in there and doing those types of things. They can go on the outside. We can do whatever you need done. The bushes and the fences to protect the equipment, and the bushes to make it visually blend in with the area. So we're wide open to that. That's minimal.
Jeff?
I have several thoughts. I didn't know if we want to wait until after the public hearing, but I mean, I can, if you want to go with what we had noted, I'm more than happy to, I guess, go over that now. I was just trying to, like I normally do, evaluate this project as we're tasked to do with, Chapter 179 for that review. And I'm having some hard time understanding how it fits, like with compatibility. It's a very, it's very much an industrial-looking piece, and I appreciate that they went to the effort to get some decorative poles to try to help. But this morning at that site walk, when we were standing there, and I was looking, what a gateway to Saco, and what a success to some previous planning board for the architectural design of that train station. It's kind of, welcome to our community. We have this beautiful train station. It has a lot of characteristics that look like a classic, train dock. And I think that's a great asset. It's a great key. And I'm just having a hard time with how much visual obstruction we'll have. We're essentially blocking that out. When you're driving by on Main Street, unless you're inside Gooch Street or the parking lot with this large buffer that we're trying to create to hide the equipment, you're also hiding quite a bit of the architecture of the train station. And my question is that what we really want the people that are driving through our community to see and buffer? And I don't know of a way to really make that compatible. So that was one of the questions that I had. The other one was item E, Chapter 179, item E was public safety. And we're hopefully going to get some feedback from the deputy chief on the concerns of possibly containing a fire. If something were to happen there during a charging event, what does that mean for our community, the amount of time it may take for them to put it out with the water runoff, as well as if the railroad were to get shut down, what does that mean for traffic? Would they not want to pass a train by while they had an active fire at that distance where those charges will be? Landscaping and buffers kind of all tied in, right? That's part of what we're discussing for the fencing, because I felt like what I was hearing for the space requirements that will be needed, the fence lines, and then the tree buffering, what our landscape architect may require to have healthy trees outside this fence, was a little bit bigger, or quite a bit bigger than what was flagged. So I'd like to kind of see, once the electrical inspector gives you his report where he wants spacing for the fencing, and then the landscape review as to how much space are we truly taking up on that corner. I did obviously have concerns, and the facilities director brought it up about snow storage. We're taking away a really key portion for our public works department to store snow. Off-site impacts was, basically the question of if there were to be some runoff. And then the public utilities, we oftentimes ask capacity to serve. Know from experience, CMP can never really tell you we don't have the capacity to serve, but this is a very large load. Originally, I had seen the prints, I think it was 2,000 amp service, like a 1,200 kVA. I heard this morning it's now 2,000 kVA, right? So has it increased the transformer size a little bit, or still at 12?
Still a 1,500 kVA
So-
transformer and a 1,200 amp service.
Okay.
2,000 amp service, sorry.
Okay, so 1,500 kVA transformer, in the general rule of thumb, when, the industry talks about capacity, they talk about 1 or 2 kVA per home at any given point, right? I think that's very light. It's a little unrealistic. But if it's at 2 kVA, that's 750 homes, right? So even if you give a more realistic 5 kVA per home, you're down around 200 homes. So we're asking there to be a huge capacity that could be used for growth in our community, reserved for this to be charged. Originally it was, 5 buses, 15 minutes a day to make it through the run. And then I kind of heard today it might take 2 cycles during the day. But regardless, we're talking about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours of charging, 15 minutes for 5 buses to roll through. The rest of the time, the equipment's basically sitting idle. That capacity needs to be there, but it's not being utilized for anything else. So those were some of the questions that I had, and I just trying to weigh it out. It seems like with this topic, people are either all in or they're a little resistive. And I'm thinking of all the members of our community that we have this beautiful icon of a train station at the center of our main street or near, and we're going to block it all or a lot of it from view from the street. So that's kind of some of my concern. And I know you have, it looked like in the early plans you talked about on the backside, kind of the lower lot as an option. Sounded like it wasn't feasible from a CMP point of view. And I just kind of brainstorming, like, well, what can we do to give the benefits of this type of infrastructure for a transit authority that might benefit more of the community all around? And I don't know, just first thing that popped in my mind was, geez, why don't we put it on the Lund Road with, the school buses? So if the school buses go electric, we could have dual function. We can have your charging equipment there. It's right next to the Saco IP substation. I think they call it Goose Fair now. Same capacity issues, right? You're getting what you need from the utility company. We could have this charging infrastructure that your buses are using and then have the ability to do some school infrastructure. If it's all federal money, shouldn't we try to maximize it as much as we can for all the members of our community versus just having this capacity sitting here and possibly obstructing it? So those are just some of the thoughts that I have, but I'm having a hard time applying all the criteria of Chapter 179 in this application as how it benefits all members of the community in a real positive way. So I need some convincing about the buffering and design and what benefits we're going to have for our community to charge buses for an hour and a half, 2 hours out of the day, and the rest of the time it's sitting there idle. So those are some of my questions.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Talked about capacity, snow storage, compatibility. Do you want to hit on any of those topics now or digest or?
I don't, other than when we moved into the train station, it's a transportation center, not a train station, I believe is the proper term. And we're trying to make it a transportation center by adding that last mile so people can come in on the train and then take the bus to where they need to go. That takes a lot of vehicles off the road. So that's our ideal. Then society, federal government pushed us for clean emissions, electric buses all over the United States, all over the world actually. So we move in that direction. We're 3.5 years into this project. We probably spent close to $1 million already. We've got a couple more million to spend. And here we are saying we kind of don't want it. And that upsets me a little bit. I got 30 years invested in transit. I live in this community. And that has me concerned. And I'm gonna hold back because they're my personal feelings and not the feelings of transit, okay? But we got to work together and move forward with the progression of the world, the United States, the city of Saco, the state of Maine, and try to keep I out of it. If we don't want to support electrification within vehicles, then tell the world so they know before they spend and make major investments. We're on our 3rd grant. We're in the middle of filing our 4th grant. We've won 3 of them. We've got over $10 million invested of your money, taxpayer money, and that's what we're moving forward with. That's all we're asking. We understand the aesthetics and those types of things, but is it a transportation center or is it a ski chalet? You got to decide that. I understand it's a gateway to the community. We want it to look nice, but it has to be usable. The reason we don't go out on the Lund Road, because our buses don't even go out there. Why? Because there's nobody that wants to ride them out there. Right here is the center. And that's where we bring them from UNE, they get on the train, we bring them from Old Orchard Beach, we bring them all over into what we call the Pulse. And those folks come, swap buses, get on the train, whatever they need to do. The future is what? Bicycles, rent-a-cars, whatever. But the future is there. So, you know, we got to say to ourselves, what do we want? I understand the building's a beautiful building. I understand that. Does it set where it should be? Probably not. But in the same token, we got to say, okay, what is realism? What are your transit needs? And will this work for the city of Saco? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to say, I think this is, you know, we could continue this discussion, and I think it's a very good discussion, and I am not as concerned about the aesthetics of how this will look, because everything we talked about today suggests it will look very nice. And I certainly appreciate Jeff's concerns about the, how it might hide the train station a little bit, although when I drive up and down that road, all those beautiful trees we planted in front of the train station sort of hide the train station anyway. But for the sign, you wouldn't even know that's where you should turn in to go to the train station. So I'm not as concerned about some of those things, but I was going to suggest that I think this is a public hearing night, Mr. Chair.
It is, yes.
And if the time's right, I'll move to open the public hearing, and then if there are members of the public who want to comment on this too, that would be helpful.
I'll second.
All right, thank you for the motion, Jim, to open the public hearing, and the second, Joyce. Any discussion on open and public hearing? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes?
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0 to open the public hearing. So with that, if anyone is here from the public that would like to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and respond accordingly.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one coming forward, I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion by Joyce, second by Jim to close the public hearing. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Jeff?
I believe that we were referencing continuing the public hearing, so we wouldn't start our timeline to get some additional feedback from staff for today's meeting. I think that was the suggestion in the packet.
I would support continuing, yeah.
I would prefer that.
And
Yeah,
I would agree. I seconded the motion just to get it on the floor, but I think once the plan comes for all the landscaping, I think, you know, perhaps members of the public might appear to comment on that, and so a continued public hearing could make sense.
And seeing the deputy fire chief's comments in writing would be helpful too. I know they had some discussion, it sounds like they had some discussion after our site walk this morning, so I'll withdraw my motion. Or I'll amend my motion that we continue the public hearing to our next meeting.
And I'll second that.
All right, thank you for the amended motion, Joyce, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion? And we will, Emily, do we have a date that we can continue the public hearing to?
July 15th is quite full right now. We can put it on there and the board can get through what it can get through. The next meeting would be not until August 12th, I believe.
All right, so tentative for July 15th. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor of continuing the public hearing to July 15th? Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
A vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. So we have the items we spoke about this morning, a few, I guess, clarifying items that we just spoke about this evening as well. I think in the city engineer's comments as well, he referenced that rendering with the screening and the landscaping as well, and updating that with electrical equipment. Is that something that we can get as well? We can get the landscaping in front of it and any arms. We can add any arms to that, and I think that could add to some of Jeff's comments, and we can see that sort of elaborated on. Maybe some of the granite bollards start to appear, and I don't know if there's another tree but some of those items that final little coordination, maybe an updated rendering would be a good
Yeah, we
tool
can
to
provide
have.
that.
Okay, that would be great. With that, do board members want to see, it sounds like we're moving towards continuing application to the 15th. Do board members want to see at that moment as well any draft findings of facts and conditions of approval based on any information, or do we want to see? I think that'd be a good start and see where we're at with everything based on that material to come in. Does that work for staff? Okay. Yes.
Is it possible to share any concerns that come up in between now and the next meeting that we can address and forward to you, so your next meeting, you have that information in front of you and you've had time to look at it? Or?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Emily will work with you on that
Okay.
and button up any of these items that we
That'd be
spoke
great.
about.
I'm just trying to, we've got a construction year that we've lost again, and I'm afraid our administration's going to pull that back.
Yeah, no,
that
that's
funding, so.
Yeah, we realize that. And that's what I'm thinking with getting conditions of approval and findings of fact before, as part of the next submission.
Yeah, I don't want to rush it, but I mean, I don't want to skip anything, but I do want to rush it.
No, I understand. So that way if that's a draft that staff can put together, that's something that you can review as well. And then that way, we'll see how the meeting goes, and we can be prepared to discuss it and go from there. That way.
That's great.
Yes. Any other thoughts from board members?
I guess just so the applicant understands, I mean, city staff will see the information, but I mean, we're not going to get the packets probably till the Friday before the 15th.
But at least it gives you a few days to,
Yep.
you're not coming in blindfolded. You know what I'm saying? Sure. You would have at least some review time that we can.
I thought you were implying that we would get the packet and give you feedback beforehand.
No,
Okay.
I'm not asking for that. We want to be able to get engineering. It takes time to put all this together. So we want to have the ability to do that, get it back to you, so when you come for your meeting, you have what you need.
Absolutely, and we have the placeholder now for the 15th, and as you work through those items, if that needs to adjust, Emily will let us know, and then we can adjust as necessary. Yeah.
So. And Brandon here flies out from Kansas each time, so.
Understood, yeah.
This wasn't the week to be flying.
Well, it's terrible to have to come to Maine in July, but,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Maybe I can bring him an old orchard tonight or something. No.
There you go.
All set?
All right, with that, board members, do we want to get a motion to continue application review to the 15th?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Oh, second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0 to continue to July 15th. Great, thank you, gentlemen. All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is item 6B. This is 439 Main Street, map 33, lot 25-1, and this is a proposal to convert existing space, office space, to affordable housing dwelling units. This is a continued application review for site plan, and this is within the medium-density residential zoning district. Board members, any disclosures or conflicts with this item? Seeing none, Emily, anything additional to add beyond our packet this evening?
So we did, at the last meeting, the application was continued, reviewed to this evening. And we did we did meet with Jackson Brown as well as Austin Fagan, his representative, to go over affordable housing restrictions. He has selected rental restrictions for the property and has updated the implementation and reporting plan. I sent this to our legal counsel, Bernstein Schur, who we use for land use related matters. And Grady Burns, the attorney over there, did respond. It's in the after the fact packet materials. So Grady is putting together a declaration that we can use for this application to restrict it for affordability. I did ask Grady, because I know the board wanted me to present draft conditions and findings, so we did include those in this memo, and he has a condition here if the board selects to move forward with its deliberations this evening. So I think that after this, we will have more of an example of how to handle affordable housing restrictions on applications that are not going for Maine state housing funding. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions for Emily on that brief update?
Mr. Chair, could we just pause for a couple minutes so I can read the after the fact
Sure.
packet,
Yep.
if you don't mind? Thank you for that time.
Sure. Other board members have an opportunity to read through that document as well. All right, and with that, do we have the applicant with us this evening, Emily? Great, thank you.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great,
Any update or a brief summary, anything to add to Emily?
No, I saw the after effect, and I agree. I think that's kind of along the lines that we talked about with Emily, something that's going to get recorded for those 4 units on the affordable housing side of things. So I'm in agreement with him as well in regards to the verbiage and the recording of it.
Okay. Board members, any final questions, thoughts, or concerns? Jim?
Mr. Chair, thank you. So to make sure I understand, there was a condition of approval number 13 that you've had an opportunity to review all the draft findings of fact and conditions of approval?
Correct. Yep.
And there was a condition of approval number 13 that had a few blanks to fill in. And then the city's attorneys proposed, it looks like an alternate number 13, Grady Burns. Have you had a chance to review that as well?
Yeah, that's the last one, the recording of the covenant. Correct, yeah.
And is that something you're comfortable with?
I am, yep. Yeah, it's kind of along the lines that we spoke about, that I agree that that should be in there for those 4 affordable units, yep. Yep.
And then, Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question of the city planner. There were a few blanks in that draft condition by Mr. Burns. For instance, enforceable by party acceptable to the city. I assume that's going to be the city planning office, but if there's a third party, let us know. And then the approval and recordation must occur within blank number of days from the date of decision. I don't know what would be an appropriate number to stick in there. If you don't mind
Ladies first.
answering.
So the party acceptable to the city, the state allows us to designate another party. So in the case of the other application we reviewed earlier this year, you could have designated Maine State Housing as the party that would prove compliance, and then we could just get a report from Maine State Housing. I think in this case, it's probably going to be the city of Saco, because I don't know of any other authority that's going to review this for us at this time. As far as the number of days, I would say probably 30 to 45 is, in that range, is probably good.
So the party to enforce the covenants would be the city of Saco then?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You could also designate it to an association as well in the future if you wanted it to be a condo association. I don't think that's what this board wanted based on our previous discussions, but that is an option.
And it looks like the applicant is choosing rentals versus condos, right?
Yes.
So if we, for right now, if we left that at the city of Saco, they could always come back and ask for an amendment if there's somebody else who should enforce it, perhaps?
They could, they'd have to come probably back through this board.
Thank you.
My only thought to that is I read 13 different than this here. I think we need to keep 13. This would be 14.
Yes,
Because
that's correct.
those are 2 different pieces. This piece is sort of covering the review of the covenants now to move forward if the board would like to. But 13 that's a different compliance monitoring. So that could be, and I think it's right, it's really in this document, the Affordable Housing Implementation and Reporting Plan. So that would be yearly on the 30th. I think those are right in there. My only question, jumping ahead from my norm, is does this document need to be dated? That's my only, there's just been a lot of versions of it. So it was just a quick thought and question, but I liked that this document had the unit numbers in. That was one of the last things that we had talked about. That was my only other note, but other than that, those were my only comments. Any other thoughts? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I wanted to clarify, I thought we were pretty convinced, or it was pretty clear that it was going to be held under one ownership and rental units. That's all we were looking at moving forward.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Which is very positive news to me, because that's where I think a lot of the confusion for me was particularly coming with, how the transfer and whose ownership, and I think that just clarifies a lot. And, I think everything else as far as site plan and review is pretty favorable to me at this point, and I think it's a great opportunity for the city to try to meet one of its goals. I just don't want to mess it up. I don't want to rush too fast. So if I'm sensing that you guys are ready to kind of edit some of the stuff, and I'm all on board with that, I just would opt that whatever we create is a draft, and that we send that out for the city attorney to review so that it's kind of lock solid. Just given some of the testimony and the public comment tonight, let's make sure that we really have this well done. I mean, it's kind of the first venture, it sounds like, for the city into this affordable housing project that's not monitored by the state. I think I'm supportive of that, but I don't want it to be done in haste and have an error. So if we work through this and we kind of get all of our things, if we don't do a final vote on it and ask for legal review, I think that would make me feel more comfortable with a final approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Joyce?
Well, Mr. Chair, yeah, and sort of on that note, in terms of tweaking these documents, I'm a little confused by proposed condition of approval number 5 that talks, it references finalized condominium documents, and it sounds like this, if this isn't going to be a condominium, then that language might have been carried over from an earlier version, that perhaps that needs to be edited as well to be, that the applicant shall submit a declaration of affordability covenants to be reviewed and approved to the satisfaction of the city staff. I mean, this is, I'm correct, this isn't a condo, this is a
So they're
rental units.
So they're all legal condos right now. Right now, they're all taxed individually as 7 individual condos by the city of Saco as of right now.
So these are going to be condos, but held in common ownership.
So right now, they're all business condo, legal business condos, taxed separately by the city of Saco, seven different tax bills. All I'm doing is transitioning to residential condos. Still, we're not changing anything with it. I'm not changing it to a 7-unit building where there are apartments. They're going to be 7 condos, but like we said, I'm going to hold all of them. They're going to be all rentals. They're still going to remain as condos. They're all taxed separately. It's not like a 4-unit building where you get one tax bill for 4 units. They're all separately individual units right now. I'm just changing them to residential. 4 I'm going to be affordable housing, 3 will be regular condos, and I'm going to hold all of them. And like I said, we're going to be renting them all out. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, that definitely
Okay.
clarifies things. It's
Okay, perfect.
unique situation.
Yes, it is. Looks like Jeff has a question.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's a little bit perplexing to me, right? We're trying to enter this 30-year term, and we're still holding them as condos. That's where my heartburn comes in, is because what right title interest to sell these in the future when we have this overlying affordable housing on 4 of them, and how do we assess and maintain the building? Having the ability to maintain this structure, it's on Main Street and fit in, and if it's affordable, do they have the means to pay for the typical condominium fees? That's where I would like, not understanding that extra layer, that he's not coming forth and saying, yes, we're going to convert all these into a 7-unit building, and it's going to be held as one entity, and that transfer in the future can only take place as one building. I would feel much better, whatever we kind of draft tonight, for conditions that we feel are important, that goes out for our city solicitor review before we make a final decision. Thank you.
Yeah, very good question, and we talked about that, Emily and I, and 100% agree with you. If there's ever any change in ownership, or I want to start selling them individually down the road, I would have to come back to the planning board for approval, and we have to talk about that. So you're 100% correct. I agree with you, as of now. That's why we put it forth that it's just going to be straight rental. I'm going to own all of them. I'm not going to sell individual units. So it's just going to make it easier for you guys to streamline this approval, essentially. If that makes sense.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I was hoping that we would have the draft declaration. I did draft something that I wrote, but I'm not an attorney, so our attorney said, no, I have to rewrite this, so I said, okay. So I would feel very comfortable, too, having the legal review of all of the documentation, but I'm happy to go either way with the board. I just want to make sure you had the condition of approval recommended by the attorney in case that was a direction you wanted to take tonight, but either way is completely fine with me, and it's probably best to see the declaration, what's going to be put on the registry, because it is the first one that we will be doing. I know we have other affordable housing developments, but it'll be the first one we're doing under this new state law.
Thank you, Emily. Any other thoughts? I can see the wheels turning.
I mean, it's pretty clear what my intent, my thoughts are. I think it's has positivity for the goals. I think we've done all of our review. This is an area that's, not in my wheelhouse. It's not comfortable, but we have very competent people. So if we want to move forward with getting a draft document, I'm perfectly fine with that, not to hold the applicant up. But I am not comfortable making a final vote on that tonight until the city review. So I'm seeing, it looks like everyone agrees to kind of keep this moving forward, that you guys are ready to make some tweaks to the draft in front of us. And if you want to, by all means, let's take the time and move forward with that. Just know that I would prefer at the end of it to just leave it as a draft, full review and bring it back for another meeting.
May I offer a suggestion?
Sure.
If that's the case, then I would just go through the draft and offer edits, but I wouldn't make motions this evening.
Sorry, you said make draft edits, but not a motion.
Don't make motions on the findings and close them out this evening then, if that's the direction you want to go in.
Any other thoughts from board members? So well, back to board deliberation and discussion here. I think we've had plenty of discussion here. I think with the Affordable Housing Implementation and Reporting Plan, I think there's information in that. I think that's written to a degree. And Emily, the city attorney, has reviewed that document, or they're going to review it, and it's on their desk now. And with that review and their verbiage, and we still have verbiage in here for the condominium declarations, I think it's covered from what we're looking to do, that there's going to be deed restrictions. Other thought, I mean, I think, Jeff, we have your thoughts. Any other thoughts from board members? I mean, I'm not opposed to reviewing the document either. As far as that particular language, I guess that's what we have the city attorney for me.
I mean, I think we can provide our edits to the conditions of approval, because it sounds like we're filling in the blanks on 13 and adding this after the fact language with tweaks in it as condition of approval number 14. But if Attorney Burns is already working up the declaration of affordability covenants, it seems like a fairly minor ask to have him also double check to make sure that our proposed conditions of approval are consistent with what he's drafting up for us.
Understood.
And I agree with Joyce completely. And good catch by the rest of the board that 13 should stay, condition of approval 13 should stay, and the language by Mr. Burns should be condition number 14. And I don't know the extent to which the affordability covenants that the attorneys are drafting, there probably should be language in the conditions of approval that reference those. And so once the city's attorneys have completed their review of those covenants, they could probably suggest some other language for condition of approval, number 15 perhaps, that could tie all that together. So I think those are all good ideas. For me, I looked at just discussing the findings of fact and conditions of approval. I looked at the findings of fact. They seem pretty complete, the draft ones. And other than what I've just said about conditions of approval, I think they're in pretty good shape too, but that we obviously need to just wrap that up a little bit with the attorney's help.
Yeah, and when this is talking about as a condition of approval, the applicant must provide evidence that it is recorded and executed restrictive covenant with the York County Registry of Deeds. I assume that executed restrictive covenant is the declaration of affordability covenants that he's referencing. So I think that's the document it's referencing, which I'm sure will be clear once that's been prepared and finalized. So yeah, I mean, if we want to make suggested edits, I mean, in 13, the blanks, I would say this approval requires annual compliance monitoring, and then on an annual basis, the applicant shall report to the planning department how the affordable housing restriction is met.
Any additional thoughts on that edit?
I think that makes sense.
Okay. So with that, Emily, I guess we're looking for recommendations from city staff and city attorney to review this and, if necessary, work on an additional condition that makes sure it 100% captures the affordable housing implementation and reporting plan. Verbiage in there that specifically responds to the recording, if necessary. I mean, this draft condition was provided if the board wanted to move or make a motion on the application this evening. I don't know if city attorney reviews the documents, this condition is probably going to change if it remains. Is that correct? Does that make sense?
Say that again? I didn't hear you. The condition is, the number 4,
This
proposed 14.
condition, if not used this evening to make a determination on the application, then it changes, because it's not, the way it's worded, it's,
Yeah. Oh, well,
this will be resolved.
yeah, I was just talking about 13, but yeah,
Sure.
I would suggest that the emailed language that he had suggested as far as another condition of approval be edited to provide that the restrictive covenant is enforceable by the city of Saco, and that such approval and recordation must occur within 45 days from the day of the decision. But then this, as with the blanks filled in, would become proposed condition of approval number 14.
Right, we would have that. We wouldn't have the 40 days from decision, because we'd have that new document. That's what he's going to be reviewing in the next few weeks.
Well, it still has to be recorded. So we're still going to have some provision in here that says that this document must be
I see what you're
executed
saying.
and recorded within 45 days after. They're not going to sign anything until they have our
Yes.
decision.
Sorry, my mistake, yes.
So I'm just kicking the can a little bit, giving them time to record, even though, you know, documents can be recorded electronically in the course of 24 hours now. But things don't always happen as quickly as we hope.
Yes. Okay, so we amended 13. We've talked about a potential 14 with amendments. Any other thoughts from there? No other concerns from board members other than, I think, this one housekeeping item, I suspect, so.
I don't think there are any other blanks, are there? I think
So-
everything else talks about conditions being met.
Sure. So with that, Emily, do we have a time frame or a final, or another meeting that we can see a final draft of this document?
Yes, so our attorney has said that they will have this within 2 weeks. So I'm not 100% clear that we will have it July 15th, and I want to make sure it's all wrapped up before we come back to the board, so we have all the questions addressed. So perhaps if the applicant is agreeable, it makes sense to move to August 12th on this.
Okay. Do we have an agenda filled for August 12th yet?
No,
Okay.
but our agenda is quite full for July 15th.
Okay, so this could be the first item on August 12th.
Yes, that's a possibility.
Okay. Does August 12th work for you? Fine. Okay. All right, last thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the language is going to be reviewed and tightened such that where they're held as condos, if they are sold to different owners at some point, we're going to be able to maintain the enforceability and maintenance requirements of this, because when it references half of the dwelling units in the subject parcel, I get that, right? It's a lot now, but if an entity only owns one of them, they have to, we're going to go by the numbers, right, that were designated. That helps. That particular unit had to be affordable.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to reference that?
Sure.
It will be unit numbers. There'll be, I'm going to ask the applicant also to declare the rental restriction amount, so you'll have the dollar amount in front of you. And the whole reason of doing the restrictive covenant / declaration is to make sure that we accurately get it recorded in the chain of title, which is why the original thing I drafted, I was told by our attorney, needs to be totally redone, so.
All right, any other thoughts or questions? Emily, just to recap, I know we've talked about it. The complexity comes because it was previously a multi-unit condominium building that we're just changing all at the same time, right? This is definitely not the norm of other projects that we've seen or talked about in the past. It's sort of this one owner with multiple condominiums, and yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So with that,
Mr. Chair, I'll move to continue this matter until August 12th.
thank you, Jim, for the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, continuing along, our next item on the agenda this evening is item 6C. This is 56 Smutty Lane. This is map 104, lot 12, and this is a 3-lot residential subdivision. This is presented by Big Ledge LLC and Acorn Engineering. And this evening, we have a public hearing and continued application review for preliminary subdivision, and this is within the Rural Conservation Zoning District. Board members, any disclosures or conflicts on this item? All right, and with that, Emily, anything to add?
Just that we had this site walk June 23rd, so the board may want to debrief about that. The Conservation Commission also saw this application, was invited to the site walk, and they have given advisory comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. So, as Emily stated, we had our site walk last week on this project. Board members were out there along with city staff, and as she mentioned, some Conservation Commission members along with the applicant. It was a good meeting, good site walk. We walked the property, we got to see grades, contours, wetlands, limits of clearing, areas of that we can have drainage. We got to see sight lines along the road. So it was a good, productive meeting for all those that could be there. So, anything to add from board members? Anything I missed? All right, and with that, the applicant's here this evening if they want to give us a brief update.
Good evening, Craig Burgess with Acorn Engineering. Just to add a little bit more context for the public hearing, this three-lot subdivision is proposing no new roadway. It will be completely served by existing roadway frontage on Smutty Lane. Each lot will be served by on-site wells and septic systems. The overall parcel is 7 acres, and as part of the stream protection out back, 2.5 acres approximately will be preserved and deed restricted, so it won't be cut. During the site walk, we did point out a lot of the trees, and most of those are all to remain as part of this project, as part of the immediate home builds. On the plans, we did put tree clearing restricted areas, which are mainly outside of that 100-foot setback, as well as the wetland areas. We also had a chance to respond to all the different peer review and city staff comments that we did receive. So we believe we're in pretty good shape there. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the board. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Craig. Board members, any questions for the applicant at this time? Jim?
So, Craig, I was looking at the very last, the most recent memo, I think, from the city engineer, and I think it's dated May 30th, if I have the right one. It looks like he had a number of issues there that he wanted corrected. I guess there were 7 of them. Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah.
Do you have any, were you able to address all his concerns
Yes.
in those 7? And how about the 3 proposed conditions of approval that he had at the very end of that memo? Do you have any issues with those?
No.
Okay.
So the updated plans that the board did have in front of them for tonight did address all of those comments.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you. That's all I had.
Great, thank you, Jim. Jeff?
So, Mr. Chair, thank you. I did have one question. I didn't see it in the engineer's memo. I think we had discussed it with Shannon and staff at the end of the site walk with regards to feedback with the appropriate space for sidewalk improvements in the future. I know the Conservation Commission did kind of pipe in that they were concerned it would fill some wetlands. Obviously, I don't think that this particular subdivision kind of warrants the need to build a sidewalk where it is being stranded between 2 points, but in the long picture, making sure that there is enough space provided. I think it was going to be checked with a traffic coordination or connectivity plan. Do we get some feedback from that just to make sure that there's either enough existing right-of-way, or is there something we need to have the applicant kind of agree to create that space for future development if need be to make safe cycle lanes, pedestrian lanes?
I did have that on my list to follow up on, but I don't have an answer for you tonight, but I will certainly get one for you.
Great, thank you, Emily. I think in that area that we were talking about was sort of the edge of pavement back towards the property, and I think the applicant, we walked that. So that's the area that we're working on confirmation of, is if does there need to be an easement or anything like that, and then where we're at with flexibility there. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions from board members? concerns?
I mean, I just wanted to note that during the site walk, it was very helpful to me to see the topography there and how that's really drains off. And I think I originally had some concerns about, you know, the possible water quality, but there is such a vast change in elevation there. I didn't think that we need to warrant that. It seems like they'll have enough separation. Most of the water that's standing there is just from the way it was graded, it seems like. So I didn't have any further concerns for the hydrogeological assessment. And it definitely looks like the developer, whether he develops each one of them on his own or were to sell them individually, in this particular case, there is very easy access, even for not a very skilled water-controlled developer, to get these buildings to drain to that back section. And I think if we meet the city engineer's request for the deed restriction on the clearing of the buffer, I think that all of my concerns would be satisfied. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members? All right, well, this evening we do have a public hearing scheduled if the board is ready to begin that.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing for 56 Muddy Lane.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff.
Second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion to open a public hearing? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and we will collect comments and address them at the conclusion appropriately.
Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public wishing to speak, I would move that we continue. Do we feel like we need to continue to get the draft deed restrictions, or will that be something the applicant can easily do before our next meeting?
Mr. Chair, did you have a question about when we can provide draft findings?
I would ask when you feel you could prepare draft findings.
We can have those prepared for the next meeting for July 15th, but I'm just saying we'll have a stacked agenda, so we may not get to everything on July 15th.
Okay. So to your question about closing the public hearing or continuing, that's...
Well, if we close the public hearing, we have 30 days to make a decision, right?
Correct.
And if by chance we don't make the July 15th meeting, we have a problem. So unless the applicant has other ideas, I would suggest we continue it to July 15th, continue the public hearing, just to make sure that we don't run into a time crunch simply because of the way our meetings work. If the next meeting is July 15th and then we don't have a meeting until August 12th, that could be a problem, I think.
Good evening, Jason Labonte. So, yeah, we already have a sample deed already drafted up. So basically the way it's written is all the buffer areas that are on the plan will be the areas that will be protected. So that'll be on the deed. So we already have language already. Not sure if it's in your packet or not, but we already have that done and we can submit that over to Emily as well. So you could actually just do it as a condition where this is kind of minor. I'm not sure if anybody really needs to come back and review, but the other thing too is that we're hoping, you know, I don't think we've gotten preliminary approval on this yet, right? So
Correct.
we're hoping to at least get one of those done, preliminary and final, or preliminary at the minimum.
But Jason, isn't the problem that if we close the public hearing tonight and we expect to be able to deal with this on July 15th, but we run into an agenda problem and we're not going to stay here till 11 o'clock at night, for instance, unless you were to agree to continue the meeting until August 12th, then we have a time problem. So, I mean, if you tell us that if we run out of time on July 15th, you're willing to just have your matter continued until August 12th, then I think we need to continue the public hearing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the public hearing's fine. I don't have an issue with that, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, we still have preliminary and final. So could we get preliminary tonight and then final in the next meeting?
I don't think we can, I don't think it works that way, but perhaps the city staff could help us with that. I mean, I think a final subdivision approval is a whole separate process, isn't it?
Yeah, so Emily can elaborate on that. I lost my train of thought. With the, if we close the public hearing this evening, and we schedule, in our next meeting, we review findings of facts and condition of approval on July 15th, and we cannot get to that item, with the applicant's permission at that night, we can extend that time frame to the next meeting on August 12th if we needed to.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's one option. Do we have a lot of items on that agenda already? Is this one of those items preemptively with a placeholder?
No, but we can, at this point, if the hearing is going to be closed, you can just continue it to the 15th, and if it's a problem, we can coordinate with Jason. I don't know, we didn't get everything I was expecting to get yet for July 15th, so I'm not sure if all your items are going to be on there, but right now, I know there's a lot of items that you have moved to July 15th, so.
Mr. Chair, maybe it'd be more appropriate, I would make a motion that we continue the public hearing to July 15th and ask staff to provide draft findings of facts and conditions of approval. However the cards fall on the 15th, we haven't closed the public hearing. Keeps the applicant on track, keeps us moving forward. I think that would be the best thing, and that would be my motion.
I agree with Jeff.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Jeff, second by Joyce. Any additional discussion?
Oh, just that, I mean, yeah, the point being, we can review proposed findings of fact and conditions of approval. We can close the public hearing and
make a
do all of
determination.
that on the 15th.
And make a determination on the
get there.
application.
Sure.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
from
it's
there,
not like continuing it tonight kicks the can down the road
Okay.
again and again.
All right.
and then from there, Emily, is there a time frame from that, once the application, if the board finds that the application meets preliminary subdivision, how soon can an applicant submit for final subdivision? What's that
The
typical?
next day, and the time periods are 6 months. They have to just submit within 6 months, which I'm sure the applicant will do, but we can take in an application the next day.
Okay, so it could be that quick, okay. All right, so motion made, seconded to continue public hearing to July 15th. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. So no other comments other than draft findings of fact and deed restrictions, so
Okay. Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is item 6D. This is 5 Birch Street. This is map 26, lot 85, and this is a conditional use application to establish a home occupation. This evening, we have an application of completeness review, and this project is in the medium-density residential zoning district. Board members, any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, and with that, Shannon, anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this conditional use application is specific to a home occupation at 5 Birch Street. The home occupation in question is a holistic, like, healing studio of sorts. There might be some Reiki going on at this studio. There may be some meditation. The applicant is here. You may ask any sort of questions regarding the services she'll be providing to her directly. So 5 Birch Street is an existing single-family house. The applicant is looking to utilize one of the rooms on the first floor of our home for this purpose. So we've received a lot of feedback from other staff departments. No concerns have been raised about the proposed conditional use at this point in time. Abutters notices have gone out. We have not received any public comment at this moment. And yes, I'm happy to answer any question. Oh, the applicant is requesting 2 waivers to a landscaping plan and also a lighting plan. The applicant submitted photos of existing landscaping on site, as well as a narrative stating that she's looking to add a little bit more landscaping out front. And then also the applicant submitted photos of where existing lights are on the house as the house exists today. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But the applicant is also here, so if you'd like to hear from her, feel free to invite her up to speak.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Board members, any questions for Shannon at this time?
I guess I just have one question, Shannon, about the parking requirements. Does this type of business require a certain number of parking spaces?
So that is a great question. I looked at our parking by use table, and this use does not seem to fall specifically into any of our listed categories. Home occupation is not a listed category in the chart, as there are many things that a home occupation can be. I know the applicant happens to be the only employee that's going to be there, and generally she is going to be doing one-on-one appointments with people. There is a mention of meditation groups, which I noted in the discussion items that you may wish to ask her for further information about. But just to clarify, the one thing that is listed in the parking by use standard that does apply is the single-family dwelling. And so single-family dwellings do require 2 parking spaces for that use. And then the board would be able to determine for themselves how much additional parking would be required for this home occupation use.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Any other questions for Shannon? All right, great. And the applicants with us this evening, if you want to add to that, or?
As to how many cars I can?
No, pull your mic down just a little bit for the recording. Thank you. Just sort of an overall introduction or anything beyond what Shannon's said, or?
Sure. My name is Nicole. I live at 5 Birch Street. I bought the house about a year ago. My intention with purchasing the house was to open a studio. Typically, as Shannon said, it's a one-on-one meeting. I may do some meditation with groups of 3 or 4 people. Most likely that will be off-site at a different business because I do already have a DBA, so I can do it at other studios in the area.
Okay, great. Any questions for the applicant? Jeff?
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, with regards to the lighting waiver, could you give me a sense of which entrance they're planning on using? I saw you had the side entrance and the front entrance, and it looks like it's kind of in that front left corner is the healing room. What is your primary intended use? Where do you expect your
There's a mudroom off the side room, so I'd prefer traffic go through there and not the front door.
And that was the one that had the automatic motion lights
Yes.
over it? Just looking, in a sense, for the safety of guests that would be coming in and the possibility of light spilling out. And those lights are already there. Obviously, they're in your picture. You didn't just install those?
I installed them when I moved into the house.
Okay.
They are motion censored and like the whole driveway right to the road.
I have more questions about parking, but I don't think that we need to kind of get into that right now if we wanted to look for the application completeness. I think it's a very daunting task for what was asked, and there's a lot of good information in the application. So I guess I'd be supportive of the waiver. I just have to get the magic language unless Jim has it already written out.
And then with landscaping, you're not planning on removing any landscaping?
No,
If
I'm just
anything,
going to add
you're
flower
adding.
beds.
Got it. Because you're also asking for a waiver for the landscaping requirement, essentially, that nothing's changing.
No.
I think with that as well, the applicant provided some good aerial imagery that showed this is probably the most well-screened lot in that neighborhood. So there's quite a bit of buffer and landscaping between the adjacent properties. So I think I agree. I support the waivers as well.
And I do as well, Mr. Chair, and I'll move that we grant the waivers for landscaping and buffering plan as well as the lighting plan.
I'll second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor of granting the lighting and landscaping waiver, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0.
Mr. Chair, looking at our checklist and the thoroughness of the application, and I agree, those photographs were really, really helpful. It really gives us a sense of your neighbors and the street, and it was very good. So to my mind, it looks like the application is complete. Not that we won't have further discussions about parking or whatever, but I do think it is complete. So I'll move that we determine the application complete.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion to find the application complete for 5 Birch Street? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0.
And Mr. Chair, if the August 12th is still a good date for the public hearing? I'm getting nods, yes. So I'll move that we schedule a public hearing in this matter for August 12th.
I'll second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on scheduling a public hearing for August 12th? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. Great, so we'll see you August 12th, and a couple little notes about parking. It seems like there's some thoughts. Jeff, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, if we could. I mean, I had a couple of areas I think we'd get some clarity. If we could do it before the next meeting, would be helpful. There was like conflicting driveway dimensions, like in 3 different spots. It was like 15 by 45, and then 17.7 by 56. And if we could make sure that those are like an accurate number, so we can determine the number of cars that fit in the driveway, particularly if it's wide enough, because our typical spaces that we're usually basing on are 9 by 18. So when we're trying to do our count, how we're going to fit that in would be helpful for me. And with that, as far as a home occupation, to me, if you're doing one-on-ones, it's pretty simple. I think that driveway works. It's the option of having the meditation groups with 5 people, because now we're looking at 2 parking spaces for your home, and then we're looking at an additional 5, so 7 cars. Where do we fit them? Obviously, that area is a pretty tight-knit neighborhood. It's pretty narrow. That would be a concern, and I'd like to kind of know where the parking would be, or if you just decide that you will limit or not have the meditation piece, right? So just kind of think about that. The other thing I had was limitation on hours. Originally, I think it was kind of a progression through the packet. Your application didn't really have any defined hours, and it looks like they kind of narrowed it down from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday is what was in our review, but the Saturday and Sunday you said would be available. We don't have hours. Typically, I think we've been more comfortable establishing some set hours, particularly including the weekend, for protection of the neighbors. So maybe if you can give that some consideration, what you might be agreeable to if we make that a condition of approval. So those are, I think, the two big areas that I'd like to have further discussion on as we review, but I thought they were pretty simple just to work through, if we can just give you time to review it before standing at the podium at our next meeting. So, thank you.
Is all that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. We'll see you August 12th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if we take a brief recess before the next 2 items?
Sure. We'll do a 5 to 7 minute recess. All right, thank you everyone for that short recess. We will continue this evening with item 6E, and this is 74 Industrial Park Road, map 71, lot 8, and this is a conditional use amendment request to co-locate adult use cannabis manufacturing. And this is presented by Cosmic Solution LLC, and this evening we have an application of completeness review, and this is within the industrial zoning district. Board members, any conflicts or disclosures on this item? Emily, anything additional to add?
So I hope this isn't too confusing, but the applicant submitted the original application with some waivers, and I contacted the applicant and I said, maybe you want to fulfill some of these waivers, because they were asking for things that were like easily findable on the GIS mapping system. So the applicant did resubmit the application. That's why I say it's a little confusing. So you have like the resubmitted application in your after the fact materials, where those questions are further addressed so that the waivers would not be necessary. There's no change to the exterior of the site, so it's still obviously up to the planning board as to whether the standards of the ordinance are met, but I believe that the waivers would not be necessary based on this additional and revised submitted information. So that is why there's so much paper in the packet this evening.
So Emily, are you saying that there are now no waiver requests?
Right.
Okay.
It's been amended. So you have the amended application in this after the fact packet. That's why it's a little thicker. As far as the use, the applicant did successfully have the use added through a zoning ordinance amendment process through the city council. So that use is on as a conditional use. This use is on in your conditional use table as a use that you can review in that zone now. We did also include the 2022 approval letter from the previous review when the application was going for a registered dispensary. And there are some questions from our city engineer that the applicant is probably addressing for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any outstanding conditions of approval that haven't been satisfied from the 2022 approval?
I have not done an in-depth review of the conditions of approval from 2022. Certainly something we will look at. I did review them from high level, and I didn't see anything major or pressing, but certainly we'll do a deeper dive and report that out to you.
Great, thank you. Board members, any additional questions for Emily? All right, and the applicants with us this evening? Come on up, and maybe anything to add or a quick refresher possibly for some of the board members?
No, I mean, honestly, the whole process, I'm not overly familiar with all of this process. I don't fully get where we're at in the process right now. It sounds like there was some questions that you guys had for us that didn't need to be changed or something, and now they were addressed and changed. I mean, from my point of view, it's just an internal change. Like I've said the last time, like we're not changing anything. We don't have to, it's just a different customer coming through the door. That's
Different customer, and therefore a different licensing procedure with the state and.
Which we're already done with.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's more scrutinized, it's more, it's going to be more scrutinized more from our point of view in terms of the states come in. We've had engineers come in, we've had, the town come in, electrical engineer, everything. Like we're ready to just take on a new customer.
Sure.
That's pretty much it. So, yeah, I don't know. Unless you guys have direct questions for me on what we do or anything, I just 2 years now, just trying to move this thing forward.
Yeah, no, we understand, and it's we've seen a few similar applications come through, correct, Emily, and it's confusing to the board as well sometimes with all the licensing and all right. Well, board members, any questions for the applicant at this time? Jeff?
I kind of, the same thing. It sounds like you're already in operation for one customer base, using the extraction equipment that's been approved, and we are just looking for another classification of customer to come through your door, and with all the stuff behind the scenes, you've had to go through all these steps to get approved. That was kind of the gist of it. So I thought you did a pretty good job. Your packet had a lot of good information in it. Nice to see you had consulting engineers, because that's usually a concern with the extraction stuff. So my only question was, when they talk about something like the containers in the back, I think they call them different. So you're storing some waste plant product in the back of the building in a couple of the dumpsters?
I think by containers, they meant just the big cinder block, like you see at a garden center or something, where you have the mulch, or at a municipality with sand.
Mm-hmm.
We have these just big things, and we throw the root balls, the soil, back there, and just compost it, and then just get it out of there. It's all organic material.
Yeah, that was my point, is that it said that there was some mixing of food wastes and
No
into,
food.
well, that was what the after the fact packet said. So you're just throwing waste that's coming out of your facility.
We have dumpsters where we throw any kind of garbage or waste, food waste and all that. They're just your regular dumpsters. We have a shipping container where we just store packaging in, and then we have those, those cement divider, and I think that's what they meant by containers, where we put the soil.
So I'm just looking at your waste management plan.
Yep.
That was in the after the fact packet, and it said that all cannabis plants, trims, and other materials will be rendered inusable prior to being disposed of.
Mm-hmm.
By grinding and incorporating cannabis waste with other ground waste until the resulting mixture is at least 50% non-cannabis waste by volume. So,
Yep.
and the options here, it says food waste, yard waste, root ball, stems, leaves.
Yeah,
You're
those
not actively bringing in outside food waste to compost. You're pretty much composting with stuff that's either from within your operation or organic matter that falls off the trees, the leaves or something, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so, and you've been doing that for how long, how many years have you been there?
7 years.
Okay, and we've never had any complaints about odor from the composting? That was my only question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any other questions or thoughts from board members?
Mr. Chair, seeing no other questions, I would move that we find the application for 74 Industrial Park Road, a conditional use amendment, complete.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Hold on one moment. We'll schedule a public hearing for when we'll see you again for going through findings of facts and conditions of approval.
So, Mr. Chair, I move to schedule the public hearing for August 12th.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Joyce, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. Okay,
Cool.
great, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is item 6F. This is 109 Main Street. This is map 37, lot 5-1, and this is a proposal to upgrade and expand the Factory Island substation, and this is presented by Central Maine Power Company. This evening we have an application of completeness review, and this is the Saco Island zoning district. Board members, any disclosures or conflicts on this item? All right, anything else to add, Shannon?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, the site plan application for the Factory Island substation has been submitted. The applicants are here. I believe representatives of both Stantec and CMP are here to answer any questions that you may have about the upgrade itself. So this application, they've already hosted a neighborhood meeting. We did have, I think, at least 2 people come to the neighborhood meeting to ask questions, mostly related to traffic patterns during construction, which the applicant has been contacting our Department of Public Works about. During that neighborhood meeting, too, I also talked with the applicants about our downtown gateway project that we have planned for that area. During that discussion, they talked about, providing landscaping to help like enhance that project, since a portion of that side of the road in front of their project is already mapped out for a landscaping island. So right now, there has been one initial meeting between staff and the applicant about landscaping that area. An additional meeting is going to be set up to kind of discuss that further, as the Downtown Gateway project is also before the City Council as well right now. So that needs to be flushed out a little bit internally. They have submitted a couple of example landscaping plans that they've done for other substations within Maine within their packet for review, just to show, what is possible due to the limitations regarding like clearances and whatnot. And one of our questions is also whether or not you would like to host a site walk regarding this site, and what the limitations might be, since this is a substation. But the applicants are here, and they can answer any questions regarding the expansion or upgrade that you might have.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Board members, any questions for Shannon at this time? All right, great. Anyone want to start first and add to Shannon's great introduction?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Moody. I work for Stantec. We're an environmental consulting company, and we are supporting CMP with the permitting for this project. I thought I'd just give kind of a high-level but thorough kind of overview of what the project entails, and then we can get into any questions that you may have, if that works for you. So this is an upgrade to an existing substation, the Factory Island substation. There are a number of different components to the project itself. They will be removing and replacing 2 existing transformers with 2 new 22 MVA transformers. There will be 2 34 kV circuit breakers and 2 12 kV circuit breakers that will be added. They are going to be replacing a 12 kV bus tie switch with a 12 kV bus tie circuit breaker. There will be a new supervisory control and data acquisition system. So SCADA system is probably what most people have heard it referred to as. A new battery bank, and then they're also removing one dead-end structure on the section 199 line, which is just immediately southwest of the substation. So the substation currently is around 10,765 square feet. With these improvements, the new substation footprint area would be 10,893 square feet, so of additional to what's already there. A few other activities on the parcel that are part of this project. There's going to be a small area of new pavement. So there's obviously the existing driveway off Main Street going into the substation. They're going to extend that slightly by adding just a small area of new pavement that you'll see on the plans. There's also going to be a gravel access path along the eastern and southern sides of the substation. So this will just allow equipment to get in there for the work itself and then any maintenance that needs to occur. And then some new riprap on the western slope. So there's a pretty steep bank there. That riprap is being added for bank stabilization purposes. As Shannon mentioned, the neighborhood meeting was held on June 5th. And like she said, comments really were related to traffic. We are preparing a traffic control plan currently in coordination with the city and Maine DOT. So that should be finalized hopefully in the next few weeks. CMP's construction schedule for this project, they're intending to start construction in August, provided we have all city approvals necessary at that time. And then construction will be finished in November of next year. Just a little bit more background on the due diligence work that's gone into the development of this project and application package. My firm, Stantec, did a wetland, watercourse, and vernal pool survey of the project site. No natural resources were identified. We also reached out to the Maine Natural Areas Program, Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to determine if there are any significant or essential wildlife habitats, any rare plants, natural communities, and such on the project site. None of those features were identified by the state agencies. IFNW did note that there are historic records of peregrine falcons nesting in the area, and that basically just if the project team identified any nesting peregrine falcons on the site to let them know. So that was the outcome of those consultations. We also reached out to the Maine Historic Preservation Commission to find out about any archaeological or above ground historic resource concerns, and we received a no effect determination from MHPC. So that was all part of the due diligence review for developing this project. As Shannon mentioned, we have had some initial consultation with the city regarding the landscaping associated with the Downtown Gateway project. So looking forward to continuing those discussions with the city staff. And I guess one other thing that I wanted to mention about the upgrades to the substation is there will be a 6-inch compacted gravel berm that's going to be installed at the fence line of the substation. And the purpose of this berm is essentially to act as an oil barrier should there be any type of oil leaks or spills. The berm allows water to pass through, but the oil is contained on site and then cleaned up. So I'll leave it at that and turn it over. We did receive our SRCC approval in May 28th. So that piece is box is checked. Anything else that I'm missing? So I'll turn it over to the board for questions.
Sorry, great, thank you. Board members, any questions for the applicant at this time? Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you could just clarify, because I think I was a little confused at reading our engineer's review with regards to the impervious square footage. I had it noted that you guys claimed there was 10,765 feet of existing impervious area And after this project, there would be 10,893. So we're only talking like 130 square feet of additional impervious area? Or was the engineer kind of right and there's an additional, is over 10,000 square feet of impervious area being created?
I believe it's the latter. Yeah, it's the latter. It's an additional 10,893.
So we're basically doubling the impervious area as part of this project?
Correct.
Okay. Because I didn't get that from the narrative, okay? The second thing I had a question on, it was just lighting. On page 16 of the submission packet, section 5, you had called out high-pressure sodium lighting. But then in other places in the packet, it referred to our ordinance standards about requiring LED. I'm assuming maybe it was just a cut and paste error. And I didn't see a photometric plan. So was there a photometric plan provided in the packet?
I believe that was one of the sheets in the site plan set.
Yes, there
It's the
was,
last
yes, yeah.
sheet, I believe, that we included in attachment B with the site plans.
Okay.
It seems to stop at the fence area, but there is one there, yeah.
Well, there's two sets, it sounded like there are two sets of operating lights, right? You had your dusk to dawn security lights that were going to be the full cutoff and down lights, and then you had some that were going to be essentially work lights, so if you needed to be there after daylight hours, that your crews could have safe light to perform their tasks. Is that correct? There's a set of lighting that they can turn on?
I'm Jack Wu, CMP Permitting Manager. So in the event that the substation light comes on for maintenance, we had a catastrophic event. So we need to work in the dark in a safety condition. Otherwise, it would just be downward casting lights on normal operating periods.
Absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that we're just clear that, because they need to be there for safety, right?
Right.
And they'd only be used in a catastrophic
It would
event.
only be used if something drastic has happened at the substation. Yep.
Mr. Chair, did you happen to notice which page that was on for their?
I am looking at page 47 of 288. Yes,
Perfect.
this page.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions for the applicant regarding the application of completeness?
Mr. Chair, I just have one. So it sounds like you're willing to work with the city to the extent that this area is like a gateway project that the city council approves. You'll be willing to work with them on landscaping to address that slope and your project so that it sort of fits in with the sort of landscaping theme that the city might try to implement there?
Right, that's correct. We understand that the city wants to beautify that, the roadway area. We certainly also understand that as part of our project, we need to provide some type of landscaping plan. We have reached out to the city staff. We figure it would be good to sort of be a good neighbor, if you will. Certainly, I think the city's intention is to beautify the area, but nothing has set in place yet. Certainly, that is one of the reasons why we have not submitted anything in terms of an actual landscape plan. But certainly, our intention is to work with the city in terms of what the city would like to see in that area, as opposed to just slap a bunch of things together to be teared down later on.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, if it's all right, if I could just ask the city planner, I know the city council may not have officially approved this project yet, or, I'm sorry, Shannon, I apologize, maybe I should be asking you, sorry. But does the city have some sense as to what it would like there for landscaping? And I'm only asking that because these folks are hoping to get some approvals in August, but a landscaping plan is kind of key to that, and if the council hasn't decided what to do with the gateway plan, it makes it pretty awkward because CMP doesn't know what to create.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I'll take this question. Agreed, and so we did have an initial meeting. Unfortunately, we had some staff with like emergencies, so we weren't able to sit down and coordinate details at the meeting time. Staff is going to City Council July 14th with just updates on where the Downtown Gateway project is. So that's going to be a multi-year project, and I'll share more after that July 14th update. So at this point, we have to kind of coordinate with the applicant, and potentially there's some in lieu fee or something that we can recommend going forward, and we certainly will resolve to have that question addressed for the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jim. Jeff?
You know, not to be the unpopular one here, but this whole gateway project, and you know, here an applicant's trying to do infrastructure that we all rely on, right? And this contributing to the gateway project, that's fine. For me, long term, it'd be more desirable if they're open to some of this, to some easements along their property, so that we have enough room to build a sidewalk in the future. I know I was voted down at the previous meeting. I believe that in the next 20 years, that's going to be a very important piece of infrastructure for safety in that area. And if there was some way that we might be able to come to some agreements that we have options, right? Go ahead and do what we need to do for the gateway, but if there was some way that we could work together and they would have put that on the table so that we would have some right title and interest to be able to develop a sidewalk on that side of the street in the future, great. If it's a planter for the next 10 years, no problem. At least we would have it documented that we may have some access in the future. That would be, to me, a very viable option versus spending a lot of money on landscaping that may still change in 20 years. But having an easy access to be able to do something on your side of the street for road sidewalk construction, not saying that you do it, just saying that we have deeded access to be able to do that in the future, I think would be of great value, maybe more value than a very expanded landscape plan from them. That's just my thought.
Can I chime in? Isn't there already a sidewalk on that side? Maybe I'm mistaken. No?
There's no sidewalk on your side of the street. It was supposed to be constructed as part of another project, but they did some changes and an amendment, and it's not there now. So I'm just saying, if it would be something that could be incorporated so the city's vision could be realized for the Gateway project, but we would still have the ability, if we needed to in the future, having some access, I think would be of huge value. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I think that's a great comment, and I just want to clarify that when we're talking about coordination with the Downtown Gateway Plan, kind of everything's on the table right now because we haven't finalized what that design is. Certainly that applicant specifically had an in lieu, the previous applicant had an in lieu fee situation because we were just starting the concept plan, but I just want to be clear that kind of we're not married to any specific thing right now. So I think I should have said landscaping and other coordination items for the Downtown Gateway Plan.
Understood. So to sort of Jeff's question is understanding as part of the landscape requirement what the options are, what flexibility or fluidity is there, if any, to meet that requirement working with the city. So we appreciate that willingness to work with us.
Right, so I think the concern was about the gateway project for the Saco, not in full development in time, especially given our intention to start construction really soon. Certainly, if we need to provide something, and we have voiced this to city staff before, we typically just go with arborvitaes. I'll certainly slap something together to move our application forward. But again, I don't think that's the desire from the city staff have voiced that they're not opposed to that, but I believe they were hoping for something better in return.
Yes. So. Yes. Okay. Any other thoughts from board members?
I mean, I think if he went with even his base plan of just providing a landscape plan that has arborvitae's on it and that still in flux, it can still change. It's just usually we're looking to check off our boxes for application completeness and then be able to move forward.
Right, the fact that there is a landscaping plan. And just, yeah, I mean, while you're developing this property and doing a landscaping plan and the city is doing the Gateway project, I mean, I agree with Jeff, it's a great time to think about, is there room for a sidewalk and can some space be set aside for a future sidewalk?
Okay, so I guess Jeff and Joyce, are you saying you'd like to see a landscape plan even if basic as part of the application of completeness? Is that what you're thinking?
I think before final approval, definitely. In terms of whether or not the application is complete without it, I don't think I need to see it to determine that the application is complete, as long as the applicant understands in order to get final approval, we're going to have to see something.
Okay.
And
Jim?
I agree with Joyce. I think for application completeness, they've provided us with some examples of what they've done in other sites, but this site is kind of in a state of flux given the city's plans. So it's unrealistic for them to give us a proposed landscaping plan that's precise at this point. So I do agree that later on we will want to have some sort of plan that we can approve, but for application completeness purposes, I don't think it's critical at this point. And it seems to me this is otherwise a very complete application. I mean, it's quite detailed.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. I agree. I guess that's what I wanted to confirm. I think landscaping's been addressed here. There's been conversations with the applicant and staff on some options. There's been some, we have some examples in here, so that's sort of what I wanted to wrap my head around, was if board members were looking for that. I guess I think for the application completeness, it's been satisfied. From there, I guess I have other thoughts. We could talk about that at a later date. I hope we don't end up with just couple random arborvitae's floating around that is completely out of context. But anyway, application of completeness. Any other thoughts? Jeff?
If we may, just the, and it might be an oversight on my part, the city engineer's memo that was in our after-the-fact packet, his item number 4 is referencing a 6-inch underdrain is proposed to drain the site and discharge on the embankment adjacent to Main Street. I'm interpreting that underdrain is like a perimeter drain. It's outside that berm that you were talking about, correct? So there's no chance that there would be any oil containment that would be coming out of that underdrain? I mean, do we need to have a hazardous material plan if that were the case? I mean, it sounds like you were creating a baffle inside the switch yard with this membrane and the berm, right? So if anything were to leak, it stays in there. So is this reference of an underdrain for some other area of the site?
Get the subject matter expert to speak on that.
My name's Aaron Wedgwood. I'm a construction manager on the project. And the underdrain you're referencing just goes under what we have for a concrete cable trench. So a lot of our wires that go out to the substation run through a concrete trench. And that drain is meant to keep the water out of that trench. And on the sides of the drain, there's a membrane of the same product. It's called a BCI product. Same type of membrane that goes around the berm of the fence goes on the side of the box. So no oil can get into that containment, therefore can't get down to the drain.
So we're essentially talking about a standard drain that would be around a commercial building, essentially, right? Anything that you would have for oil would be contained inside your membrane.
Yeah, inside on top of the ground. Yes, it can't get to that drain.
Because I didn't see like a hazardous material generation plan because they indicated it wouldn't be generated. So I'm good with that. I think that satisfies that they don't need to submit anything.
Well, Mr. Chair, with that, I'll move that we find the application complete.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0.
Should we, Mr. Chair, should we do a site walk?
If the board would like. I lost my place.
I would agree. I mean, it's doubling the size. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of real estate up there. It'd be nice to at least see what's the area they're talking about.
I agree.
So, Emily, we have a proposal here for an August 12th public hearing date on this item. Is there room to potentially have that site walk the morning of, if that works with the applicant?
Yes, we can do the morning of.
Okay. Does that work for you as well?
Absolutely. We'll make it work.
Would there be any harm in, can we do it on the 15th? Is that enough time to notice? We're going to have a...
Doing a site walk on the 15th?
Yeah, on July 15th. Let's make it a whole day of planning board stuff.
That's fine by me if that works for staff and the applicant, of course. Start with...
Yeah, we can do 8 o'clock.
We could do 8 o'clock on the 15th. Does that work for you as well? If we do July 15th, a little earlier?
So July 15th?
July 15th.
July 15th at 8
Yes.
for the sidewalk? Okay.
Okay, so with that, we have a site walk scheduled for July 15th at 8 a.m. And if the board finds appropriate, we could schedule a public hearing for August 12th.
I'll move to schedule the public hearing for August 12th.
Thank you for the motion, Joyce.
Second?
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 4-0. All right, great, thank you. We'll see you on July 15th for a site walk and then back on the 12th for a public hearing.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can we just clarify, as far as parking for that? There's a lot of stuff going on their site. Is there a recommendation on where we're going to park and what we're going to ask for, right? We probably want to see flags of the corners of their expanded switch yard.
Sure, yeah, and that's something Emily works well with applicants on.
Yeah, we could have the boundary staked out.
Sure.
In terms of parking, so when you go in, I guess the hydro facility sort of is to the left. If you keep going in, you'll see our substation that's fenced in, and to the left of that, it's sort of where big open area that folks can park.
Okay, so there's, to Jeff's question, there's a safe place on site to park.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you could drive
Sure.
right in to park.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, continuing along this evening, our next item on our agenda is general correspondences, and Emily has just given me an update that we did receive a few items just this evening during our meeting here from a resident, so we will add those to the after-the-fact packets under the more section as well. And we'll have that for everyone to review. Beyond that, any additional items, Emily, from those few emails and our packet this evening?
No, thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Item 8, Planning Department updates and discussion.
So I just wanted to flag a few things for the planning board that we're working on diligently as staff. The Maine legislature approved various updates to housing laws, and we will be vetting those out. There is a list in the long-range planning committee's packet, which we can send to you. I can pull it up on the screen if you'd like to take a look at it, but perhaps the most impactful LD to look at would be 1829. So that one was signed by the governor, and it will become effective. Sections of it, I believe, will become effective within 90 days, but I need to get some further determination because some sections don't become effective, like the definition of subdivision, until later. I can pull it up on the screen just so that you have an update. We did go into we did give an update, a pretty long update, the Long Range Planning Committee, so I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you want me to give an update of the bill now, or?
I think just sort of a brief summary, I think would be good, and then if board members could get a copy of that, I think digitally, that would be nice.
Okay, I'll just pull it up so I can give you a brief
Sure.
snippet here. So it's in the June 23rd Long Range Planning Committee packet. If you want to take a look at it, and I can email it out as well. And we can put it in the after the fact packet. So the LD 1829, it limits municipal zoning authority. So the fire protection accessory dwelling units will have some restrictions on it that we don't have now. So for instance,
Sorry, we don't see anything on the screen if you thought it was up yet.
do you want to pull it up? That's okay. So these are the bills that we were tracking. The general summary, brief summary of what the bill does, the status. Most of these have been approved through the legislature and has been signed by the governor. A lot of these, perhaps the most impactful, are going to be in the bolded text, so I'll kind of let you look through those when we send this out. 1498 puts limits on how we can use, collect, and how much time we have to use impact fees. So every residential project right now in Saco has an impact fee attached to it, so that will be impacted by 1498. And then 1829, this one has several provisions of statute that are changing. So fire suppression sprinklers not required for accessory dwelling unit unless the accessory dwelling unit is within or attached to a structure of more than 2 dwelling units, including accessory dwelling units. So there's some limit on what we can require for fire protection relative to residential sprinklers. There will be an additional height allowance, so we will have to look at how our ordinances will be affected, but we have to, the municipality will basically be allowing for 1 story or 14 feet taller than what the zoning allows for housing. There's a lot here, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm just rushing through it. I just want to give you a brief overview so you can then go back and read it for yourselves, and we can ask any questions, and long-range planning committee is also looking at these, so it won't just be planning board. Lot size and density allowance will also be changing for designated growth areas per statute served by a public special district or other type of water and sewer system. If the parameters are met, the lot size cannot be, the municipality cannot require a lot size greater than 5,000 square feet. Density requirements go down then to 1,250 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit for the first 4 units. So you could have a 5,000 square foot lot with 4 dwelling units on it. Once you get to the 5th unit, you'd need 5,000 additional square feet of lot area. There's also some parameters for lots outside of the growth area, which can still be 5,000 square feet if served by public sewer or water. And the number of dwelling units is a little bit lower, but still we have the lot size of 5,000 square feet. The statute also indicates that planning board approval is not required for 4 or few dwelling units within a structure. Right now, I believe we're doing like site plan review for most of those. There will be mandatory training and to be completed within certain time periods so that for that training. The definition of subdivision will be updated statutorily. So I'll send this out to the board. We'll also put it in the more section, a link over to the long-range planning committee packet. But I did just want to give you a very brief overview of what we're tracking, what we're looking at, and what we'll be considering to bring back after staff has additional time to vet it out and talk with legal and long-range planning.
Great, thank you. Board members, it's a good read. It's a good document. It's a lot of good information. All right.
So, Mr. Chair, the takeaway is that the state legislature is attempting to make it easier to, for people to put ADUs on their property, and they're trying to condense the housing into smaller areas, essentially. Is that right?
Yeah, they're trying to allow for more housing in certain areas that can be built up denser. But this is, so LD 2003, a lot of municipalities are still working on coming into compliance in Maine. Here in Saco, we've been in compliance with what the statute required as of October 2023. So we were ahead of the required timeline. So this is going to be another set of standards that I believe municipalities across Maine will have to look at figuring out how they can adopt them.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jim. All right, our next item, any planning board comments? Thoughts from board members, questions, concerns? All right. Well, with that, we will move to adjourn at 8:38 p.m. Thank you, everyone.